Hello and welcome to the AM Filmmaking Podcast. This is a very special episode and hopefully another series to continue for this. I'm joined by Will, who is a devoted Star Wars fan. How you doing, Will?
Hi Adam, yeah, I'm good. Really looking forward to this,
Mm,
and yeah, it's a special episode as you said. So fingers crossed, good stuff to come, and we got a nice juicy amount of content to chew on for you guys. So yeah,
absolutely. So what we're doing today, as you could tell from the title, we're going to be actually reviewing Star Wars fan films. And as we are aware, like in 2 days' time from when this is uploaded, Uh, it will be May the 4th, which, if you don't know the saying, it's May the 4th be with you instead of May the Force be with you, which is officially called Star Wars Day. Officially, so you celebrate everything Star Wars.
binge binge all the movies online, guys.
Oh, mate, I not all the movies, but I always pick one. I only just pick one, and this year I actually don't know what film I'm going to pick. I mean, there's so many to choose
Mm,
from. I mean, I'm thinking I might watch Revenge of the Sith again. Um,
I'm
That's just one of my favourites, and
yeah,
I haven't seen that in ages, to be fair.
fair enough, fair enough. Probably, I don't know. I'm probably just going to go back to the original trilogy, perhaps, possibly episode 5, maybe even episode 6. See.
Well, yeah, May the 4th is always a very special day. You know, we pick our favourite. You know, it's a very nerdy day. I find it to be, because you're the only
Mm.
family in the household that goes, "Well, why is he getting so excited?" But as nerdy as it is, it always like brings a smile to my face when talking about Star Wars. To be honest.
Yeah, it's like you said, like there's so much to be happy about. I guess like it's celebrated by so many people, and it's been happening for so many
Yeah,
years. And
mate. Yeah,
you
mate.
know why not? Like when you're a super fan, I guess, then you
Yeah, you
kind of
have
got
to.
to, haven't you?
You
You
have
know,
to. I'm not
there's
quite.
no excuse not to.
I'm not quite a super fan, but I would say like I would dedicate myself like if I could sit down and watch Star Wars all day if I wanted to. Wouldn't get really bored. Maybe after like the 100th time, maybe then yeah I'm getting a little bit bored in it. But it's amazing.
Well,
But anyway, we're gonna dive straight into it. I want to be nice and quick. We want to get right into the juice of things, you know.
exactly.
Um,
The juicy bone.
Absolutely. So what we're going to try and do in this series, so we're going to sway away from the uh, episodic series of reviewing a film. We're actually going to dive into fan films. So these are films that are made. They could be either made as a movie, as a spoof movie, or they're made officially by the fans. So we've got two films for us today, which we both found on YouTube. The first one we're going to review is Vader, Shards of the Past, and that was made by the YouTube channel Star Wars Theory. And then the second film, which we'll review later on, is called Darth Maul Apprentice. Um, Not sure who that was done by, but it was directed by Sean Boo. So it is looking forward to basically talking about those two films, really.
Yeah, breaking them down and see what we can analyze from it. I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, since Will, you are the guest, you pick which film do you want to review about first?
So I think maybe just go for Vader, Shards of the Past. Perhaps we'll see what that's got to offer. I think the title for me that's quite appealing as a title.
Mm.
So why not? Why not go for it?
Yeah, and actually, no spoilers ahead, but this is probably my favorite fan film I've ever watched of any Star Wars. So, let's get into it. So Vader, Shards of the Past. There wasn't really a description or anything. It was just said made by Star Wars Theory. It was written by and directed by Danny Ramirez, and some of the cast or some of the team from Star Wars Theory themselves, and another name I cannot pronounce. So if I pronounce this wrong, I'm very sorry. It's Nico G. Welp Olsen. I'll call him Olsen. I it sounds very like Swedish or Scandinavian. I don't know. So we'll call him Mr. Olsen. Um, Obviously all these characters are based off the original creator of George Lucas, who obviously founded Star Wars. And there's lots of other people who, I'll mention him as we go into this. Um, so before, we obviously go into spoilers, what do you think of this short film for you?
Um, well, I think just like before we even do watch, or before people actually do end up watching the film, I think the title in itself, like we mentioned before, I think that's quite appealing and drawing as a title
Mm.
because talking about the past, even in the title, it's good because it gives you an element of and a brief understanding of kind of not only what the film's going to be about, but on top of that, the whole idea of well, this is going to explore Vader's past, which, from my perspective, I've never really seen any Star Wars material, if you like, which has explored that background of Vader, essentially. Obviously, post Revenge of the Sith timeline, but obviously before Episode 4. So I haven't really seen anything like that, and I think that in itself is quite a strong.
It's a strong title. It's just a strong title.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
before
yeah.
any the reason why, you recommended this film to me, and I was like, oh yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I'll give it a watch. I'm not really expecting much, but the title is so clever because the in itself, we obviously get right who's the main character. It's obviously Darth Vader and Shards. Like the film in itself, like Vader is actually a pretty much a broken character anyway, and they really capture this in this first of an episodic short film. And obviously, because we know about Vader, it's obviously set in the past. So he's almost looking back on what he could have and hopefully would have changed.
And what happened to him as well, and how that's affected him as a person now as well
And like,
at this point.
and we even talked about this in episode 4, uh, in these podcasts where we were talking about Vader's kind of past, how a lot of factors have brought into this, and it actually really showed in this film. There's it obviously features quite a lot of people, including the Emperor, which I will spoil, but I won't spoil any proper details just yet. But yeah, like when you're coming, across all these short films on YouTube, I find this title, I have to agree, stands out from the crowd. It's in bold, big headings, and the thumbnail is beautiful. Like I love that thumbnail of Darth Vader.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, like you're saying, I think the thumbnail's really good, and obviously that's what is made to draw the viewer in, isn't it? It's there
Mm,
to captivate the attention, and I think that it does an exceptional job of doing just that, and it achieves its purpose with perfection. I don't see no faults there at all. It's a 100% achieved what it's meant to do, and of course, it's got us reviewing this, so it must be good for starters.
absolutely. Well, but I was a little bit worried because obviously when you think, hang on, is this really good? Too good to be true? Could be another clickbait kind of film? You know, and with it achieving, a fact of it, the film has achieved over 17 million views, nearly reaching 18, and over 800,000 likes. And
Astonishing, isn't
it's
it?
it's non-profit. There's no
Yeah, in itself.
no monetization. Well, obviously they can't because they would have to buy rights off George Lucas and Disney themselves, which is going to be virtually impossible. Um,
Mm.
but it's just amazing, and they even funded it on their own. They raised
On his
they
own.
raised over £130,000 to make this film, and it's
That's
only 15 minutes.
that's incredible. It's how much how much it costs to even just make, like you're saying, 15 minutes worth. Imagine though, if he was going to do that all on his own and make a
Mm,
whole, say, 2 hour movie, that's going to be pricey as heck. But tell you what, all credit to Star Wars Theory though of how his commitment to this because he's come up with a fantastic result as you guys will have got by the end of this
mm.
review. And I highly recommend. I don't know if Adam would as well, but I do highly recommend you guys go and check this film out after we have viewed it because I'll tell you now, it is good. It is really good.
Highly recommend it. I'll leave a link in this podcast if anyone is like keen and interested to see what it features and is into Star Wars. It'll be in the description. Yeah, it's fantastic. What they've made for just this small piece of it's artwork really. But yeah, I think let's dive into it a bit more. Let's do a few spoilers here and there. And I like I said, I like to do it as, positives and negatives. I don't like to go, here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end. No, we just do what I like and what we don't like, and then we summarize it. So for me, like the biggest positive that they bring to all this, and I think it's throughout, is actually the visual effects and special effects that they use. I mean, right from the get go, like the fight scene right at the beginning, you are captured immediately with all these beautiful, effects of shooting at Darth Vader, the force choke, and even like if you see in the background, it's this nice setting of the Death Star getting built in a red collage, and it's just beautiful to watch. And it really reflects on Darth Vader's rage at the time when he was hacking down the clone troopers in that room.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with your point there. I think just the use of the color, obviously the Death Star in relation to Vader's emotions at the time. I think that's brilliantly used, and the fact it ties nicely in with the fact obviously he suffered so much pain, as you were saying, that he's just inflicting it out as rage. And believe it or not, guys, as it does say in the credits at the start, it's only 8 months after after the events of Revenge of the Sith. So it hasn't been too long compared to what it could have been, and already the fact he's got this emotion makes you kind of really connect with him, if how much pain
Mm.
this one person has suffered throughout the course of such a short space of time, which is good. And I agree. I think, like I said before, the color in relation to Vader's
Mm.
emotions is very well used, as well as the Death Star's placement there. That's a nice kind of touch to that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, color says a lot, and if it's done right, which I think top hats to people who were colorists during that. Like it was beautiful, a really beautiful job. Um, and not only in the scenes where Darth Vader's raging, but even when he's talking to the Emperor with that nice blue background and how it all ties in. It's just stunning to watch, and I think honestly the VFX should, if this movie was up for an Oscar, I'd give it an Oscar for best visual effects and color. It's just beautiful to look at, um, which is really nice. But like you said, Will, I like how you mentioned about the title, because I think that as well, like that was a big shout, because I was thinking like when before watching this film, I was like, okay, are we gonna get a classic Star Wars intro?
Mm.
There's a title crawl, Darth Vader, he's fighting with his emotions, blah blah blah. I thought it was going to be something silly, but no, we getting straight into it, where it does your typical, from a galaxy so far far away, dot dot dot,
Mm.
and it goes straight into, for some the Empire brings fear, for others it brings hope, and for Vader it brings nothing but suffering. Which that is really good, a really good setup for what we're about to see from Vader.
Mm.
And it's such a true quote. I mean, it's very cliche, because they use that a lot. When the rebels talk about the Empire, they do talk about fear, and when people talk about the rebels, they think, oh yeah, there's hope. But I think the Vader quote of him suffering is really powerful, and it stands out to you. Do you not agree?
Mm. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that's really nice in, like we were talking about before, reflecting his emotions as well. And even as early on, when they're rolling like the title role, I think that's really well placed. Again, like you were saying, because it's there, it's going to give you a really good perspective of what Vader's going through. And not just that, but although it's unexpected, I somewhat empathise with him because although he has,
Mm.
although although like at this point he has killed many Jedi and many people, you understand that he was promised things from the Emperor, like power to save Padme, which ultimately he wasn't able to do, and that's kind of
Mm.
what the story is evolved around. But I think that the whole thing of just that suffering as a whole is a very kind of strong link, if you like, to make the viewer really connect with Vader in himself. Really, if you
Mm.
see where I'm coming from with that.
No, I totally agree. And I know I keep agreeing in these podcasts, but I think there'll be a few disagreements a little bit later on. But like, absolutely, I 100% get where you're coming from. Another really good positive. I just like to say, like massive props to both whoever played Darth Vader and the Emperor. Um, both of them did a really, really good job. You know,
It was
Dupree,
Darth Vader was Dupree
yeah,
Jones, and the Emperor
yeah,
was
yeah.
Stephen Bartlett.
Dupree Jones as Darth Vader and Stephen Bartlett as Emperor Palpatine. And
Mm.
we did actually did quite a lot of research into both of these characters, and I
Mm.
kid you not, this Stephen Bartlett shout out, he actually looks like Ian McDiarmid. Like I said this before, if Ian McDiarmid had a stunt double, it'll be Stephen Bartlett,
It's
100%.
got to be him.
It has to be. There's no one else to do it. And
Absolutely.
he was in and I've done a lot of research. I mean, Stephen Bartlett. I think we found out he had a degree in science back in
Yeah,
1994.
yeah. It was something in the 1990s. He had some sort of science degree, and you kind of makes you think, well, if he's done a science degree, why has he gone into acting?
Yeah,
But I think it's quite, I think it's good that he's got that, because it's a unique profile, if you like, something like that.
yeah. I mean, he went from I want to be a surgeon to all of a sudden, what he took like an 8 year or 12 year gap, and then it's the next award he got was or next certificate he got is screenplay and acting.
Yeah,
It's just like
exactly.
okay, that's a
Yeah,
complete
well,
change in career.
it's quite random, isn't it? Like you jump from one thing to the other, and
Yeah.
the fact is like 12 years in between, and then 1 minute, hey guys, I'm in the science lab, and the next minute, oh, I'm on screen, great.
Oh,
So
but no, props to him. I think he played a really good job
mm,
of the Emperor. Like I think as well the makeup artist did such a good job. You know, and
mm,
I really enjoyed how like he played it. And I mean the dialogue was a little bit cliche, which there was some bits of dialogue where it was a bit like the I can't recite the exact quote, but I think he's not Ian McDiarmid, but he just did a really good job of playing the character of the Emperor, and I just
mm.
like to throw my hat off to him, 100%. And don't forget about Darth Vader. I thought he did all the right movements for Darth Vader,
Yeah.
and the costume again, like all the costumes were brilliant as well. Whoever made the costumes, do you not agree?
No, I 100% agree. I think they're very well done, and although we are going to get on to one of my negatives a little bit later, everybody, but
Mm.
I do think with most of the characters, I think their costumes were extremely good, especially the clones. I thought, although they do play a quite a minor role in terms of speech and lines as
Really?
such, overall though, I think the clones are really good. But hats
Oh,
off that you said to Palpatine was good, but I found Darth Vader the most to be, I'd say, the best designed
mm.
character, if you like, especially although like guys, not not massive spoilers, but especially when he's got all his suit off, I think that's a really good,
Mm.
if you like, attempt at recreating what he would look like. Because obviously we haven't really had that many accurate representations of from official Star Wars content, if you like, of what he actually looks like. So I think that's a really good idea of what it could be. If you agree with that.
Yeah, and I just love the focus on Vader's eyes. It's that worried look, and the we get into that intense scene of where Darth Vader's dreaming about like killing the Emperor, and then the Emperor having overall control over Darth Vader, and then we bring back to like reality where Darth Vader is crippled and hung up,
Mm.
and I just that for me, I forgot about that scene. Really good, really intense. Again, VFX and special effects was fantastic. Like I think entirely that room was CGI. Has to be like
Mm.
even with that little robot. It's just really fine details that they went into this, and you could really it really shows where they spent their money.
Mm.
Um, but you said about the clones, like I did find, like I didn't mention it in my notes, but for me the clones felt very weak. I don't know. I didn't like the look of them in my opinion.
Okay. Well, so what we're here for to debate, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean I'm just gonna have to disagree because it just wasn't for me. It just they didn't really stand out. I thought they would be a bit brightly coloured, or I don't know. They didn't really like.
Did they not click with you, to be honest? Then.
No,
So-
no,
No, I
not
see.
really.
I think with something like that though, it's just down to personal preference, because it's just that really, isn't it? Like you either
Yeah.
like them or you don't like them, just based on the design. I mean, it's a clone essentially. So, although from the Star Wars films,
Mm,
you've got to design it as best you can. If that best didn't appeal to all people,
mm,
so be it. I think it's just one of. I think it's one of those things that it's like a. It's like everything in life.
yeah,
Like not everything's going to appeal to you, but then it's going to appeal to other people.
yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah.
but no, fair play to you though. That's a valid point. I can see where you're coming from because if I was going to go from your perspective, I would say somewhat. I find that especially the helmets and quite the armor is quite clunky.
Yeah,
If that's kind of where you're coming from,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can 100% see that, and yeah, no, it's a valid point, 100%.
And I did find that because I'm a very big fan of story, and obviously as I keep talking about on my podcast, how much of a fan I am with story. I did find like especially at the beginning, it was very VFX heavy. As much as I love it, it's
Mm.
especially the one scene that I felt it was a bit of an overload was when when Darth Vader is strangling the Emperor and he's holding all those bullets. Like it's similar to how Kylo Ren did in the Force Awakens with just one, but they really overloaded that, which I personally didn't like. I don't know about you, Will.
Um, you see, like I quite liked it, but I do agree with you somewhat on that. I do think
Mm,
it was an overload use of VFX because although like the bullets they are, being fired straight at them or laser bolts or whatever you guys call them, um, I do think that he was stopping too many, and
mm-hmm,
I think it was overstating his power somewhat because in my mind, a throwback to like the timeline of when it's set, it's 8 months after Revenge of the Sith, and Palpatine hasn't fully trained him by this point. I wouldn't think. I would have thought it would have taken at least a couple of years to actually train him to his full potential, if that makes sense. So I feel like,
mm.
although it's a minor and very, very picky, I find to me that just that many shots that are being stopped is just too much. I don't think he would have the power to actually do that.
Nah, nah. Yeah, I think that was just them. Oh, look, we got all this money. Like, what can we spend the rest of the budget on? Oh,
Mm.
let's have the clones shoot more bullets at him. And I felt that was very VFX heavy, which I preferably didn't like.
Again, it's down to taste, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And I did mention, some lines of dialogue was a bit vague.
Mm.
For example, Darth Vader said, "I will finish what we started," which is very similar to what pretty much identical to what Kylo Ren said um, when he was talking to Darth Vader's mask in Force Awakens. And I was like,
Yeah.
why? You could have been a bit more creative with what you were saying.
Mm.
But what about you, Will? Like, have you got any more negatives to bring up? I mean, you said about Palpatine's mask. I'm a bit curious about that.
Yeah, well, to be fair, like I think the use of a face mask would have been more to my liking instead of just makeup, I think, because although it is being very, very picky, but you're only this picky when you've got barely anything to pick out of that's actually negative out of it. But I feel like you were talking about, he could be Ian McDermott's stunt double.
Mm,
I think though it could have been more accurate, even if they're on a budget of however many dollars it was, 160,000 or something. I think they could have invested in a face mask. I think that would have been within their range to do.
mm,
And I just think, to me, like that's just not. It's all down to personal preference at the end of the day. All these opinions we're saying, but for me, I just don't like it because to me his face just looks a lot very lumpy, especially on his neck. It looks very um like clunky, kind of quite heavy looking, if that makes sense.
mm.
Whereas, it's obviously like he's an old man by this point who's been crippled up by force lightning, obviously, as we saw in Revenge of the Sith. But I just don't think that it's to my liking. I think they could have done a better job. Not saying it's fully laziness or anything, but I just think perhaps that they could have done a little bit better with it. If you see where I'm coming
Yeah.
from there,
I
you know.
just like the I think Will was trying to say is, if you just get a paper cutout of Ian McDermott's face and put little eyes in it, what the mask you wear, if you got the Queen, or like, oh, I want to be David Tennant, let's just get a David Tennant mask or something like that. I think
Got
that's
some
what it
ice
is.
and you're done.
But yeah, no, I totally understand it. Again, it is your personal preference,
Mm,
at the end of the day. And there's
mm,
so many points to pick out from this film. I mean, like you
yeah.
said, even the ending, like where we
Mm.
left on edge. I mean, the trailer
Right.
came out about a month ago for the next episode, which I cannot wait. I mean, leaves you on that
It
cliffhanger.
looks really good, doesn't it?
Mm, mm,
I think that's something we could mention as well another time. I'll tell you what though, one more negative I found, especially with Shards of the Past, was at the beginning when we are in Palpatine's throne room. To me, the setting, the background, although it is done on green screen, it looks extremely artificial to me. Like it does not appear as somewhat realistic, and I think even if because they are on a budget of say $160,000, although it may have been harder to actually get the right specialists in or the right specialist equipment, I think that would have been a better investment than say, like you were talking about, make the clones fire more shots, for example. I think that
mm.
investment, I think they need to kind of look at where they're investing their money more and perhaps improving what they've already got, if that makes sense, instead of adding
Yeah,
to it.
yeah, that's a good shout. Like, and that goes, yeah, again. That is personal preference, but I think with these kind of fan films, they like to show off their VFX. They like to include that a little bit more because they're only in a short frame of time. But again, this is
Mm,
again being very nitpicky. Like, and I totally understand. Sometimes some of the scenes where they are real, and then they go, well, it looks really artificial.
mm,
Um, but no, I understand where you're coming from with that,
mm.
and I totally
Yeah.
respect that.
Yeah, that's good. I think just to go over a couple of positives I found. Um, one that I don't think you mentioned before. I thought for any of you that are quite involved in the Star Wars kind of TV things they're releasing, they're doing the seventh and final season of the Clone Wars at the moment,
Mm.
and I found a nice inclusion was actually the Clone Commander Fox who welcomes Darth Vader to Naboo. I thought that was a really good really neat inclusion and a good throwback actually to the Clone Wars, how as he is heavily present throughout that, and I think that's a really nice inclusion, like I said, because obviously it's a nice connection for those fans who feel that if this film was quite distant, if you like, from other Star Wars content, because although obviously it's non-profit and they haven't got recognition from Lucasfilm and Disney, etc., I just think it's a nice inclusion because it embed its, if that makes sense, embeds it nicely into Star Wars content. Although not being officially licensed by Disney, it's still a nice piece to have in there, and Yeah, if you see where I'm coming from with that.
Yep. Yeah, I get you. That is why he's a true dedicated Star Wars fan. He knows his stuff inside and out. You know, and
Yeah,
I couldn't answer any better myself because I haven't watched the Clone Wars series, but that's just me. I'm more into films, not animated series, unfortunately.
no, well, it's yeah, again, it's a preference like it all
Yeah.
is. I'll tell you one more though before we do move on to the second one. I really liked. This is something you could agree on. The deception Palpatine uses on Darth Vader when he's
Mhm.
being force choked. It's obviously he's hiding his power from him, even though
Yeah.
it's a vision. I think it's a really good resemblance of the films. I don't know what you think of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Palpatine is the art of mischief and sinister. Like he is the ultimate bad guy. Beyond like
Plots, isn't it?
it's all about plot making
Scheme,
and how he
scheming.
does it. You know, like and even in Vader's dreams, where you think he can overpower him,
He's,
it seems too much. You know,
mm,
he's always deceived, unfortunately. But
he's
I
everywhere, isn't he? He's powerful
Yeah,
overall.
but I highly recommend to see this film. Highly recommend. It's free. You can watch it. It's called Vader: Shards of the Past. Absolutely fantastic to watch. So now we're going into the second film. We'll go straight into it. Which is called Darth Maul, the Apprentice. Now I actually had higher hopes for this film. Or this short film, and I was like, oh, like I really want to get more details about Darth Maul because
Mm.
he is this mysterious bad guy who could do all these flips and stunts. Um, and like this is probably my least favorite out of these two films, definitely. But I'll get into more details. But the details about the film: it was written, produced, and directed and edited by Sean Boo. And there was also a action director, action designer, and a choreography by Vidan Tran. I think it's a company who did that, but like that was the guy who did it. And costumes, special makeup, and stunts all by DefCon Unlimited. So it's another company. Now, when we went into research about this film, I was like, all these names are really weird. You know, we got Darth Maul, who's played by Ben Shama, which
Shama, yeah.
I was like Shama Lama. And then got the Jedi Master, who was he was very much of a resemblance to Obi-Wan Kenobi, of
Mm.
Mathis Landver, and then Jedi Apprentice Svenja Jun, and then Palpatine, who made a brief appearance at the end, Derek Chorowski. It sounds Polish. Um,
Dick Chowalowski or something.
yeah, but after doing some research, they found out that this person who made this is they're German. It was a German. It was all German
Mm.
people, and I think they dubbed it in English. I didn't find a German version of this, but I'd love to have seen it. But
Well,
I
I wouldn't
think
have understood any of it, but
nah, nah. This one surprisingly, even though it's been out for a little bit longer, like 4 more years longer than Vader Shards of the Past, it's got 25 million views, and again over
Mm.
800,000 likes, which is massive, massive.
Yeah.
These short films are getting massive attention, and again, this is all non-profit, I believe, and it took 3 years to make the entire film from storyboard all the way to release and distribution on YouTube, which is massive, massive amounts of time on this film, and a lot went into like if I was jumping straight into my positives, like definitely stunts and the amount of tension that was grabbed from those moments. You know, I thought it was matched really, really well. Do you not agree?
Mm. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think I think Darth Maul was obviously he was the main character featured in it, and I think he was obviously he was the main icon of the whole story. But I think, like you're saying, the stunts are exceptionally performed, and I think it's a very accurate portrayal of him from Episode One, The Phantom Menace. I think the whole fighting style of Darth Maul was very good. and just a link to the bonus content of the filming of it and how they did it. I think the just the choreography of how it was done was exceptional. I found, especially with the Jedi as well, how when
Mm.
he did a force push, the Apprentice, she was pushed back. I thought that was really well done, especially the timing of that when obviously he puts his hand up and then obviously like pushes and the thing pulls her back. That was really good. I thought. I don't know if you agree with that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, the stunts were fantastic. Like I said, yeah, like they used I think it was cable wires to like attach them with when they were
Tram-
coming down to like slam down.
there was a trampoline in
You know,
there as well, wasn't there?
trampolines, yeah, like, and the
Even basic,
cinematography,
even
yeah, it was very, very beautiful visual film to watch. And I think my favourite shot was near the end when the Jedi Apprentice by Miss Jeanne, or whatever her name is, I don't know, but when she's running up to then face Darth Maul for the final time, and we get this lovely low angle across these salt plains to run up, and then having that duel with Darth Maul. Like, I love that scene, like that shot. It was just fantastic to watch, and like we said, like the cable tie, beautiful, really, really worked well, and it really did tell a story. Um, I'm watching this. And then another like really good positive. I thought, in my opinion, you may disagree. The costume and makeup again, they're on point, in my opinion.
hmm. Um, I think with Darth Maul, yeah, the costume was very good. Um, I found that his Sith robes are very good. The horns out of his head as well, coming out of his head, those are really good.
Mm,
Especially and obviously the tone of his red skin as well. And obviously his teeth are a little bit yellow and black, so I thought that was really good the way they did that as well.
mm.
One thing I didn't like though was not the Jedi, not all of them, but I found the alien Jedi, whatever species she was meant to be, although she does get cut down quite quickly, I found that just the design on that for me needs a bit of improvement. It just didn't really sit as a kind of Star Wars kind of figure, if you agree with that.
Of course it did, though, because
Well,
she was meant to be like a kind of a species associated with Ahsoka, who was in the Clone Wars, which I know her. She's probably one of the most famous Clone Wars character from that series. But yeah, like I see where you're coming from, but I thought they did a really good job. Like what in it was a bit like, oh, that wasn't very good.
mm.
Was it just her orange skin, or I
No,
don't know.
I just felt like I don't really know how to explain it, but for me, like I just found the costume. It looked instead of kind of realistic in kind of the whole Star Wars thing. Although they're working on a budget, and I am accepting of that, but I just find it just looked like she had some sort of like headpiece on with like bird feathers on. That was about it for me. I look like they just got like some sort of like pigeon or something, or some sort of birds, and I just stuck some feathers on
A
it.
pigeon Jedi.
Yeah, not exactly. But no, that's just it is very critical. But I just didn't really like it, like her costume design. I thought it was a bit kind of rushed, if that makes sense. There could have been a bit more effort put into that, I think. But if they're working with
Fair enough.
if they're working with what they got, I'm 100% with that. And you know, but yeah.
Mm, yeah. All right. And another thing to pick out, which I didn't pick out in Shards of the Past, is all the music from this was all original. So top hats to Vincent Lee, who made this masterpiece, and they didn't try to reciprocate, which they did in Vader Shards of the Past, of like John Williams' iconic tracks of Darth Vader and all that. So doing that all by sketch, like massive shout out, really grabbed our attention.
Mm.
But to one of my negatives, which I just it just it's very repetitive for kind of fan films. There was no story. It was too heavy action. It was basically like, right, we're just going to show lots of fight scenes,
What can
and
what can Darth Maul do essentially?
Pretty much, yeah. I didn't think there was any story at all. There was a little bit, of how it shows the ruthlessness of Darth Maul a little bit, like how
He shows no
you
mercy.
think, yeah, at right the end where you think he's gonna spare the life of the Jedi, instead he just hacks her down,
Mm.
and then the Palpatine says, "Yep, well done." Yeah, I just didn't like that. There was just hardly any story.
Yeah,
If you think,
yeah, no, I agree on that. I think story is very important, but in my mind, I do think it was very action heavy, and they could have cut down on the fight scenes and maybe put more dialogue in, if you like. But
hmm
I do think though, in the short space of time they've got 15 or 17 minutes, however long it was, I do think there's only so much you can do with story because although back to Shards of the Past though, although they are making a second episode, these guys may not actually have the money or the time to make a second episode of this, and I think it would have been nice to have a little bit which would kind of tie you into episode one, but I just think they kind of went all out to kind of show you what they could do with VFX
okay,
effects, if that
but
makes
then
sense. But
yeah,
go on.
sorry to cut in, but what is the point of them making a short film? They may as well just said Darth Maul test to see how cool he is, because they could have easily spent. This is like a 17-minute short film. Bear in mind, they could have easily had like 5 minutes to bring. You could easily spare 5 minutes to bring the characters of the Jedi Master and the Jedi Apprentice together a little bit more. If we saw a little bit more conversation between them, rather than spending more time on stunts and everything like that, then you feel a little bit more attached. But I just felt like you're just watching people fight each other. It's just like,
Yeah, a lot of combat involved.
it's cool, but it's not like, it's just like, why is it called a short film?
Mm,
Why is it a short film? It's not really
a film.
it yeah.
Yeah,
And like, again, I think, sorry to cut in
no,
again,
it's
but
fine. Go on.
that I think VFX was used badly in this,
Really?
especially with the, yeah. I didn't like the droids attacking the Jedi Master and the Apprentice, because it just detracted away from the action. It just they just looks horrible, and
No.
they used the same explosion like 3 times.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair point. I think on my part on that, I think I didn't really take that into account much, if I'm honest. But I thought it was fine, to be honest. I think in my mind that's just a bit critical coming from my perspective, but it's a fair point. But like to me,
Yeah,
I just wouldn't have picked up on that personally. It's just a thing to criticize off it. Um,
but it's but why is it in the film? That's my problem. Is why is it in the film?
I think because it's to take a kind of if you like, part of Darth Maul just hacking people down. I think it's kind of more spread it out, kind of as like a padded layer, if you like, to kind of
Okay.
more of a sense, give you a little, although it's like 5 seconds or something per one, to give you like a little break from just lightsabers clashing, if you like, and just instead have a bit of like traditional blaster fire and Jedi deflecting blaster bolts,
Mm,
I guess.
true. True say.
That's what I think it's there for. That, but again, I could be wrong.
Yeah, maybe, but it would have been better if they actually had maybe just a clone trooper or a I don't know, something different, not like a droid or anything. Maybe a little turret. I don't know. I don't know. Like, but flying droids and then the same explosion and the same sound effect being used, it kind of distracted me, and I was like, they could have cut that out. Um, as well as, putting a bit more in story. We want to see story. You know.
Yeah.
You got anything else to add on that?
I think on this is going into my super fan kind of mode here again, but I'll take the start. I thought I'm not actually sure if it was this, but I thought when Darth Maul's in that like the circle with all the screens around him, the background beyond that of what he's actually standing in that kind of building, I thought that was a Sith temple of some kind. at the beginning of the film. And I thought that was a good time with Star Wars Rebels when we do see one in that. And obviously, Adam, like you said, you haven't seen the animated series, but
Mm.
for those of you who have, if you haven't, I'd highly recommend going and watching them. It's like it was just I thought it was just like a nicely embedded inclusion. And regardless if it wasn't, like I just think it was it was well designed anyway. So regardless if it
Mm.
was meant to be a temple or not, it's still a good background to me. And I think it's a nice like the whole darkness setting around that is a very good reminder to me of the Sith and how they're very, like
Okay.
what they aim to be, quite, promote darkness and hatred and things like that. If you see where I'm coming from there.
Yeah, but I just it was just too VFX heavy, and it was too long, and he was just scrolling through, and I wasn't feeling anything from it. I mean, the only thing I get from that, they could have made it shorter by him being alerted to say that the Jedi have arrived and he needs to go and hack them down. Not looking at videos and watching. It was too long for me. It was too long, and I didn't like that bit. They could have just about story. I just want to see more story. It didn't really develop, in my opinion.
Didn't click with you. Fair enough.
Nah. Um, but the final thing I'd say, like as a positive, to end on a positive, location and the setting was fantastic. I forgot to mention about that.
The natural woodland
The
as well. That was really good.
really good, really good, and the color again, fantastic. Like I thought they did a really good job in post production. So top hats to them.
I'll tell you what, a good thing though about the natural setting before we do move on. I think when they are, it's kind of like was it like not a gorge? It's kind of like when they, I don't know what it's called. When they have, the slopes going down either side, it's kind of like
Oh,
a valley, if you like. It's like
Valley,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's the word. Like the little valley where they're fighting, and how Darth Maul when he runs up the wall. Although that is VEF, but obviously, sorry, VFX. But I found
What?
that was
That was real. That was real.
what when he ran up the
He,
wall.
yeah.
Oh, was
They
it? Oh,
they they did it with cables again.
oh
They
wow.
they just they just got rid of the cables in VFX.
Oh,
100%.
so oh wow. Oh, if
Yeah, when he went, is it the scene where he's trying to get past the like a swing and he runs across the wall
yeah, that one. Yeah,
sideways?
yeah.
Yeah, that was real.
Oh
That was
wow.
not VFX.
Oh, that's on a
It was
cable.
yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah.
really. Oh wow, that's really good. That's really good.
Exactly. And this it goes back to the choreography and the stunts pulled off in this. It was brilliant.
Hmm.
Yeah, no VFX in that, man.
That's really
No
good. Wow.
VFX.
I'll tell you one other
Yeah.
positive though. I really liked. If if you guys if you do want to go and check out this film, they've also got how they filmed it, the process of creating the whole thing in the extra content or whatever it's called.
Mm.
As you can see towards the end, well, like when Adam said, when they're on the salt kind of plane, when it's the final fight between the Apprentice and Darth Maul, the use of a drone I thought was really professional and really up to date. I thought
Mm.
the inclusion of up to date technology was exceptional, and I think that really adds the element of professionalism to the overall project. And although it's only a minor touch, I think it's good as well that they put the bonus scenes in because it really allows you, like to me, to appreciate the cast and the crew's hard work and effort, which they did include and put
Mm.
into the project. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, a drone can actually make or break a scene, and usually they make a scene because drones are very effective, especially those last shots where where there's that final fight. And I like the overhead shot where it's like a direct bird's eye view down on them
Yeah,
when they're fighting.
yeah.
That was my favorite drone shot, rather than we see this whole landscape and everything like that, and it was littered a little bit in VFX.
Mm.
But no, credit again to the cinematography, which was by oh, I haven't got the cinematographer on here. That's really bad of me. But whoever did I think it might have been Defcon. But whoever did that is really good job. Really good job. So I think we'll come to our conclusion now. We've talked about both films now. So I'll ask you, Will, which film for you was the best out of the two, if you had to pick?
I thought it was Shards of the Past, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
if I was going to give this a rating, I would say I'd give Shards of the Past a 9 out of 10, and I would give Maul, The Apprentice, I would say a 7 out of 10 for me.
Really?
Mm,
Oh, okay, that's quite generous for both of them. I think.
right.
I think Vader Shards of the Past. If episode 2 is really good,
Yeah.
I will give it a 9.
Okay.
At the moment, it's just sitting on an 8 and an 8.5 for me. Vader Shards of the Past, just because I don't know if they just cut down on those VFX. They don't need to showcase that.
Mm,
Focus more on the story. Its story makes a whole bit of difference, rather than littering it with lots of cool lightsabers and everything. But it was still a really solid movie. Like, highly recommend.
mm,
But when it comes to Darth Maul, I can't rate it a 7, in my opinion. I just think the action, like we said, is too heavy, and you know how much I love story.
yeah.
I want there to be story, and if they just didn't focus on that again, rather than not the VFX, it would have got a higher rating. So I'm gonna have to say a 6. It it wasn't as bad to be as a 5, but it wasn't as good to be a 7. So 6 is manageable for me.
Okay. Well, that's fair play.
I thought you were gonna go, oh come on, mate. Yeah, man. But I think that concludes today's special. Thank you very much, Will, for jumping on today. It was really great to hear from you, and lots of Star Wars knowledge that people should be excited about.
Thank you again for having me.
Be sure to obviously check out all our podcasts, which is on the AM Filmmaking Podcast. It's available on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, and even YouTube. So you can go and all the links are down below, and you can go and give them a follow, give them a like, show your support.
There's no excuse for not listening.
Yeah, give it a follow. I love followers.
Or
in that way.
Anyway, who cares? It's free anyway. Do
it. Yeah. But yeah, thanks again, Will, for coming in. If you, obviously he's got a YouTube channel. It's Humanities Reimagined. He's doing really well. He's got a lot of work that is set out on there, including one that I've recently watched, which is about the Tudors. So if you are doing A levels or GCSEs in RE or histories or any humanity, he's the guy to go and see. So Humanities Reimagined. The links in the description. He's also got an Instagram. So, but all podcasts are available. So I will see you all on the 4th of May, which will be a special. I'm going to be with my best mate, Jay Sanderson, who he is also a big Star Wars fan, and hopefully maybe Will can join along.
Yeah, hopefully.
Into this.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really useful for you, because we are going to be reviewing the Mandalorian series, which the final episode legally comes out. It came out yesterday. If you're listening to this, after, because basically we recorded this in the past. We're recording this on a Sunday on the 26th of April, but the final episode of Mandalorian comes out on the 2nd of May legally. I just like to say legally because there's a lot of illegal sites, so I may have already watched it. So we're going to be reviewing the whole series, what we loved about it, what we find is debatable and everything like that, and hopefully Will can share his opinions as well as my friend Jay. So big shout out to him. It'll be his debut coming on. It should be cool. Be sure to like and subscribe, and see you all on 4th of May. May the 4th be with you.